Hello and welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm Sarah Smith, and in this episode we will be discussing the coronavirus global pandemic. I'm joined by Bradley Smith, my father. Okay, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, what has been the most surprising outcome or effect of this whole coronavirus outbreak to you?
Well, there's two things that really surprised me. First of all is the political factors that go into something like this and how people are handling it. It's really surprising how polarizing along, political party lines that you see on TV, even just in general conversation with other people that, we all want the same thing. We want the virus to be gone. There's drastic effects with this virus, obviously nationwide and worldwide, but we're all going towards the same goal. And when we start fighting each other about what's the proper way to handle it, what types of treatments are we looking for, what kind of equipment do we need in social interactions, and there's such a broad range of opinions on how we should approach it. It's tough to know, being someone who's not in the medical field, to know, well, what's right, what's not right, because it has drastically changed our day-to-day life as far as work, social interactions, things like that, to know who do I need to trust. You look to doctors, but you know that sometimes doctors can be affected by financial and political factors. The other thing that has surprised me is the amount of anxiety that it creates. You see it manifested in people's interactions with each other. Even people that are not sick, has not shown symptoms for a long period of time, the interactions you have with those people, if you encroach upon their personal space or hugging, shaking hands, anything like that, people are very reluctant to invade personal space. So you really see a drastic change in the interactions between people, whether it be in a professional setting or private setting. They just definitely, it's in the back of their mind that social distancing is probably something that's going to be here for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But in your own opinion, how do you think our Governor Hogan, has handled the pandemic? And, would you do anything differently if you were in his position?
I think he's handled it well. He's made decisive action. He hasn't really wavered on things. When he makes decisions, he commits to those. And a lot of his decisions appear to be based upon the people that he surrounded himself with, which are experts in the fields, the medical fields and things like that. So I like his presence. I like the way he delivers it. I like the decisions that he's made. Whether or not I do something different, it's hard to say, because there's no real playbook. This is a pandemic affecting the world, and to say, well, I would do it differently, the certain decisions that he made, it's tough to say because you don't know what the outcome of those decisions would be. Maryland has a high rate, higher than a lot of other states. So it's tough to sit here and judge what he did right and what he did wrong, because really you're at the mercy of the virus and how it's being spread.
Yeah, for sure. So as a member of the Secret Service, how has this virus changed the way that you guys are operating on a day-to-day basis? What do you guys have to do differently?
We do things much differently than we used to. So I'm tested regularly for COVID. I do the rapid test, which takes about 15 to 20 minutes. If I'm going to be around, I'm on the vice president's detail. So if I'm going to be in the car with the vice president or on a plane with him, I have to be tested every day that I'm going to be close to him. We also do temperature checks. Every time we enter one of our facilities, we are temperature checked, and we're asked if we've experienced symptoms of COVID before we're allowed entrance. We wear masks at all times now. We maintain our social distance, and we clean up our workspace as much as possible. Mm-hmm. The vehicles that we use, the armored vehicles that we put the vice president in, we clean them in the morning when we get in, and we clean them at the end of the day. If anybody rides with the vice president, we have to clean them again. And we've been given the cleaning protocol by the medical unit that we work with, as well as the manufacturers of the vehicles. What are the most optimal ways to make sure that the vehicles are clean while not destroying the interior, the leather, and things like that. So on a day-to-day basis, our standard operating procedures have greatly changed with the onset of the COVID virus.
Mm-hmm. So that leads into our next question, which we kind of touched on, which you kind of already answered, but do you think that this pandemic's going to change the way that we live our lives? And in what ways do you think so?
Yes, it's definitely going to change the way we live our lives. Like I said, with the social interactions, you're going to have people that are very reluctant to be in crowded spaces. I think it will take a while for restaurants, for sporting events, for plane travel, where you're going to be sitting right next to someone. I think a lot of people are going to be reluctant to be that close to someone else, because you're always in the back of your mind going to wonder if that person has it.
Yeah.
Am I going to catch it, and how much will it affect me? Shaking hands. I think shaking hands will, at least for the short term being at least a year or so, I think shaking hands may go away.
Yeah.
It's just an easy way to prevent the germs from someone coming in contact with you, because people naturally touch their face, touch their mouth, they eat, drink, all those kind of things. So I think there are going to definitely be long-term changes in the way we interact with other people in society.
Okay, so our final question is, if you had the chance to address the entire nation during this time, what is one thing that you would say to everyone?
I would say we got to quit judging everybody. Every time people talk about it, they judge, how did this person handle it? Whether it's a politician, a doctor, their opinion. There's no playbook for a pandemic, especially one that's as contagious as this one. So when you turn on the TV, all you see is this person didn't do it the right way. This governor's not handling it correctly. That governor's not. Everybody's doing it different. And whether or not there needs to be one certain way to do it, there isn't. New York is not going to be the same as Kansas City. So there's going to be different ways to do it, and people are going to see varying degrees of success. So what I would say to everybody is, we need to tailor our plan going forward based on where you live, the city that you live in, the amount of social interaction that there is, the population density of the people, and how prevalent COVID is in that area. When you look at New York City, obviously that's the hardest hit area. To say that, well, what we do in New York City is what they should be doing in Fargo, North Dakota. No. There has to be different ways to approach it. The medical approach, the societal approach, all those things. And we can't sit here and say, well, that person's wrong, because that's not what we're doing here on the East Coast. Yeah. I think the judgment needs to be withheld, and we just need to, with it being a new coronavirus, and we didn't know anything about it before January, we're learning as we go. Everything is new. So the judgment, people judging others' actions, I think, it isn't constructive to finding a good cure or going forward, dealing with it.
I like that. It's a good answer. Okay, that wraps up today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A, and I hope you're able to gain a new perspective. I know it can be hard when there's a lot of different sources of information, but this podcast was just a chance to hear from someone who is experiencing it on the same level as you and I. Thank you so much for listening, and stay healthy.